I'm Adrian Seet and you're watching Nightline. The top stories. Declassified LCS report reveals estimated costs of project ballooned to more than 11 billion ringgit. And UK inflation hits new 40-year high as food prices rocket. Thanks for joining us. The Governance, Procurement and Finance Investigation Committee's declassified report has highlighted 5 major weaknesses in the management of the Littoral Combat Ship LCS project. Amongst them, the Defence Ministry has failed to prioritise the interests and views of the Royal Malaysian Navy RMN, which was the end user for the 6 LCS ordered by the government, and the change in the main equipment of the ships that led to the ballooning of the cost to more than 11 billion ringgit. In the 106-page report, which was declassified and made available online on Wednesday, the committee said that the ministry was more inclined towards the recommendations of the contractor, namely Bowston Naval Shipyard Sdn Bhd, BNS. The report also revealed that the design selection method, the combat management system and some key equipment were based on the recommendations and views of BNS and not from the Navy. It was also found that UMNO President Datuk Sri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi, who was Defence Minister at the time, was involved in the procurement process, despite his denying his involvement in the LCS procurement fiasco last week. This was based on evidence in the form of a letter sent by BNS on July the 8th, 2010 to Datuk Sri Zahid requesting for a letter of intent on the LCS project, which he endorsed with his signature and stamp, including a directive in his handwriting which said, "Please get this done." In addition, the investigation committee believed that the price negotiation held based on BNS's offer was also unrealistic. Even though the first price offer was negotiated to 9.47 billion ringgit, BNS offered the second price, exceeding the negotiated price, namely 10.30 billion ringgit. The committee also found that the stipulation regarding liquidated damages, LD, of up to a maximum of 12 months was also detrimental to the government because the claims could not be enforced for delays exceeding 12 months, which clearly showed that the conditions in relation to the LD was not made in the government's interests and will even incur a loss to the country for the delay in the delivery of the ships. The construction costs of the 6 LCS was expected to continue to increase following the change in the main equipment on the ships, which also affected the delivery timeline, and the government may need to pay 11.14 billion ringgit in total to complete all 6 ships, which was a significant increase from the 9 billion ringgit that was agreed upon years earlier. The report also said that the Defence Ministry did not conclude comprehensive due diligence on BNS as the company had financial troubles and was burdened with high loans, which amounted to nearly 1 billion ringgit. The company also had issues with skilled labour and even hired inexperienced junior engineers to design the multi-billion ringgit vessels, which affected the delivery schedules. Meanwhile, the committee has proposed that the government should consider the continuation of the BNS contract to supply the LCS with conditions. The committee said this included immediately finalised equipment changes, namely the Integrated Platform Management System, IPMS, and Decoy Launching System, DLS, adding that BNS and the Navy's LCS project team should also apply for a revised implementation schedule. Apart from that, the committee said BNS should immediately complete and finalise the detailed design, and the Defence Ministry should grant the extension period in writing to the company, in addition to urging the government to exercise stringent control on progress payments to BNS. The committee is also of the opinion that the remaining financial allocation of 3.19 billion ringgit out of the total of 9.13 billion ringgit will not cover the project completion, as less than 40% of the 6 ships have been completed. However, It proposed that the ministry immediately table the findings of the investigation, the financial implications, and the direction of the project to the cabinet so that it can decide on the best course of action for the 6 LCS. In the meantime, Datuk Sri Hishamuddin Tun Hussein stressed that there will be no additional funds allocated if the first LCS is not delivered on schedule. The Senior Defence Minister said his focus now is to ensure that the first LCS can be completed soon without any further delay.
Jadi saya nak tengok apa yang telah pun dirancang, apa yang telah pun dibentangkan kepada Kabinet, apa yang saya telah jawab ke Dewan Negara dapat disempurnakan, dan ujiannya ialah kapal pertama tadi. Dan kapal pertama tadi tidak akan melibatkan suntikan kewangan yang baru.
Datuk Sri Hishamuddin added that if the party concerned cannot hand over this first ship within the specified time with the existing provisions, the government would not be confident that they can meet the needs for the other ships. However, he did not rule out additional funds for the construction of the next LCS.
Buktikan bahawa kita boleh siapkan kapal pertama dulu. Kalau kapal pertama pun tak boleh siapkan seperti dijadualkan bawah agenda plan kita pada kali ini, tak guna kita fikirkan dana tambahan.
He also said claims that there were no progress in the construction of this LCS was untrue, as this asset was in various stages of construction. He said this to the media after attending a Jalo Gemilang flag launching ceremony in conjunction with the National Month celebration at the Defence Ministry at Wisma Pertahanan in Kuala Lumpur on Wednesday. Meanwhile, the Cabinet on Wednesday agreed in principle that the LCS project forensic audit report be made public. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Parliament and Law, Datuk Sri Wan Junaidi Tuanku Jaafar, however, said it would be made after discussions with the Senior Defence Minister and other stakeholders on the mechanism of disclosure, as there were sensitive issues involving security which cannot be made public.
Di mana-mana demokrasi pun, sama ada di Amerika, di England, bahkan di Perancis, dia tidak akan mendedahkan benda-benda yang highly sensitive.
He also did not rule out the possibility that the government will establish a Royal Commission of Inquiry, RCI, to investigate the LCS issue. He added the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC, still needs to update the investigation papers relating to the LCS case before it is returned to the Attorney General's chambers for a decision so that other individuals may be prosecuted.
Walau bagaimanapun, tadi ada dibincang dalam Kabinet dan keputusan Kabinet adalah open-ended. Penyelidikan SPRM diteruskan dan Kabinet menegaskan sekali lagi bahawa kita tidak akan melindung sesiapa pun.
Earlier, the Cabinet had proposed that the LCS Project Forensic Audit Report conducted in 2019 be declassified, but the process needs to get the advice and views of the Attorney General and the Auditor General. The Public Accounts Committee, PAC, previously held 9 proceedings related to the LCS issue, starting on November 18, 2020, and found that not a single LCS had been completed, even though the contract for the project awarded through direct negotiations worth 6.083 billion ringgit provided that 5 ships should be completed and delivered as of August 2022. Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riyatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah has been conferred the Turkish Order of the State, the highest award of the Turkish government, in conjunction with the King's state visit to Turkey. The King received the award from Turkey President Recep Tayyip Erdogan at the Presidential Palace, making him the first ASEAN head of state to be given the honour. Al-Sultan Abdullah is amongst 5 heads of states conferred the award under the leadership of Erdogan. The other recipients were King Salman Abdul Aziz of Saudi Arabia, King Philippe of Belgium, Emir of Kuwait, Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmad Al-Jabbar Al-Sabah, and Tunisian President Beji Caid Essebsi. At the same ceremony, the Yang di-Pertuan Agong also bestowed Malaysia's highest award, the Darjah Utama Sri Mahkota Negara DMN, on Erdogan. The DMN is accorded to a state ruler but is also bestowed on an honorary basis on a foreign head of state and other most esteemed people. Earlier, Al-Sultan Abdullah attended a state banquet hosted in his honor by Erdogan and his wife, Ermine Erdogan, at the presidential palace after being accorded a state welcome. The Yang di-Pertuan Agong was accompanied by Raja Permaisuri Agong, Tunku Haja Aziza Amina Maimuna Iskandaria, and their daughters, Tengku Putri Raja Tengku Putri Afzan Amina Hafizatullah and Tengku Putri Raja Tengku Putri Jihan Aziza Athiyatullah. The King and Queen is currently on a 7-day state visit to the Republic, which started on Tuesday. The Health Ministry will open its e-placement systems, namely the e-houseman, e-dentist and e-pharmacist, from mid-September this year to enable contract healthcare officers to make an online selection of placement upon receiving their permanent appointment offer. Its Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said the officers would be notified about the opening of the e-placement systems 1 week in advance via email. In a statement on Wednesday, Khairi said the date for the officers to report for duty is set on October 17th. He added that 4,053 medical, dental and pharmacy officers who were offered a permanent appointment can download the offer letter from the Public Service Commission, SPA's appointment offer system, My STP portal, from August 29th. He also said the appointments of the officers comprising 3,215 medical officers, 438 dental officers and 400 pharmacy officers were the largest recruitment carried out since contractual appointments for the posts were introduced in 2016. Apart from the creation of additional permanent posts this year, the government has also agreed to create at least 1,500 additional posts involving medical, dental and pharmacy officers every year from 2023 to 2025. For the officers who were not appointed to permanent posts, their contractual appointments are still in force and they can still reapply for permanent appointments next year. The government will undertake a study on extending the protection aspects in the implementation of the Housewife Social Security Scheme, SKSSR, to house husbands as well. Human Resources Minister Datuk Sri M. Saravanan said the matter has already been raised in the Cabinet. However, the government needed to identify the actual number of men in the country who are house husbands.
Kalau kita ikut budaya negara kita, majoriti suaminya bekerja dan isteri yang jaga rumah tangga. Tetapi kita akan bermula dengan kaum wanita dan akan mengkaji secara mendalam apakah keperluan. Sekiranya keperluan itu mendesak, kita tak ada masalah untuk memperluaskan kepada mana-mana pihak, khususnya kaum bapa yang menjadi suri rumah tangga.
Datuk Sri Saravanan said this at a media conference in Wisma Pembangunan Sumber Manusia Berhad in Kuala Lumpur on Wednesday. The SKSSR is expected to come into force on December the 1st this year. This after the Housewife Social Safety Bill 2022 was passed by the Dewan Negara on August the 9th to implement the scheme, where a total of 150,000 women registered under the I-Suri program will get the government contribution. According to Datuk Sri Saravanan, the SKSSR is voluntary and husbands are not obliged to contribute for their respective wives, and no action will be taken against those who fail to do so. However, he said husbands can be fined not more than 10,000 ringgit if they have started paying contributions but fail to continue. Multiple bomb attacks rock southern Thailand. This and more right after this breather. Nightline continues. British inflation surged to a new 40-year high in July on rising food prices, adding to a cost of living crisis as the country faces the prospect of a recession. According to the Office of National Statistics, the Consumer Prices Index (CPI) accelerated to 10.1% last month from 9.4% in June. It was reported that the largest movements in the CPI in July came from food, with bread and cereals the largest contributors to the rise in food prices, followed by milk, cheese and eggs. Earlier this month, the Bank of England has warned that inflation will climb to just over 13% this year, the highest level since 1980. It also projected that the country would enter a recession that would last until late 2023, with official data last week showing that Britain's economy shrank in the second quarter. In a bid to bring down inflation, the central bank has hiked its key interest rate several times since the end of last year. The most recent increase was by 0.5 percentage points, the biggest hike since 1995. It leaves borrowing cost at 1.75%, driving up mortgage repayments for households. Explosions and fires have ripped through at least 17 locations in Thailand's southern region on Wednesday in what appeared to be multiple coordinated attacks that injured 7 people. According to authorities, the bombings and arson attacks, which happened after midnight, targeted convenience stores in petrol stations, all located in the provinces of Pattani, Yala and Narathiwat. Police said they were gathering CCTV footage and other evidence, adding that the immediate motive for the wave of attacks was still unclear. Provinces in southern Thailand along the border with Malaysia have seen decades-long low-level insurgency in which the Thai government has battled shadowy groups seeking independence for the predominantly Muslim provinces of Pattani, Yala, Narathiwat and parts of Songkhla. Since the insurgency ignited in January 2004, more than 7,000 people have been killed, and peace talks that began in 2013 have faced repeated disruptions. Wednesday's attacks came after the Thai government earlier this year restarted discussions with the main insurgent group, the Barisan Revolusi Nasional, after a 2-year hiatus due to the pandemic. U.S. Representative Liz Cheney, a vocal critic of former U.S. President Donald Trump, lost the Republican Party primary to run again for Congress. According to Edison Research, with 99% of expected ballots counted in Wyoming, Trump endorsed Harriet Hageman, led the Republican field with 66.3% of the vote, followed by Cheney with 28.9%. Of the 10 Republicans who supported impeachment, it is possible that only one, Dan Newhouse of Washington, will be in Congress after November's election. Cheney, daughter of former Vice President Dick Cheney, has held the seat since 2017, but she has attracted Trump's ire after voting for his impeachment last year and playing a leading role on the committee investigating the January 6, 2021 assault on the Capitol.
That's true, but only if...
12 pasukan berentab demi menjulang Piala Idaman. Kami bawakan kepada anda perlawanan tumpuan Liga Super 2022. Hanya di TV9 dan Astro 149.
Sports tennis, the Western and Southern Open. World number 1 Daniil Medvedev faced a tough test against Botic van der Zandschulp before sealing a spot in the third round. Playing against the only man to take a set off him in his 2021 US Open title run, Medvedev secured a 6-4, 7-5 victory and advanced to the next round. He will next face Tommy Paul or Denis Shapovalov. With one more victory, Medvedev will secure his place atop the ATP rankings through his US Open title defense. Accompanying him was Carlos Alcaraz Garfina. The third-seeded Spanish breezed past American Mackenzie McDonald in straight sets, 6-3, 6-2, to reach the third round. The 19-year-old will play either Croatia's Marin Cilic or Finland's Emil Ruusuvuori next. Joining them was Miomir Kekmanovic. Serbian fought back from a set down to defeat Montreal Open champion Pablo Carreno Busta of Spain by 1-6, 7-5, 7-6 in 2 hours and 53 minutes. Earlier, Australia's Nick Kyrgios defeated Spain's Alejandro Davidovich Fokina in straight sets to reach the second round. The Australian claimed a 7-5, 6-4 win in 1 hour and 31 minutes. Waiting for him in the next round was 11th seed Taylor Fritz of the USA in the second round. In the women's category, former world number 1 Serena Williams recorded her second defeat since announcing the countdown has begun on her career after she suffered a straight set defeat to US Open champion Emma Raducanu in their first round clash. Serena was not at her best as Raducanu cruised to a 6-4, 6-love win after just over an hour. The Cincinnati event was the second US Open tune-up for Williams, and the next time she takes the court will be at Flushing Meadows. Earlier, American world number 12 Coco Gauff was forced to retire, injured from her first-round match against Czech Marie Buskova. Gauff was just 2 points away from winning the first set when she fell and appeared to hurt her ankle when attempting a backhand. Buskova took the set 7-5 and led 1-love in the second when Gauff called it a day. Buskova will next face American Alison Riske-Amritraj in the second round. Also shown the exit was Naomi Osaka. The former world number 1 was knocked out in the first round when she lost 4-6, 5-7 to world number 44 Shuai Zhang of China. Osaka, whose last title came with the Australian Open last year, fought hard but succumbed in an hour and 15 minutes. Zhang goes on to face a Russian, Ekaterina Alexandrova, in the last 32. Up next, woman charged with 5 counts of money laundering. This and more after this short break. In Pahang, a businesswoman was charged at the Raup Sessions Court on Wednesday with 5 counts of money laundering amounting to 2.04 million ringgit. 28-year-old Norida Shakira Agus Yadi claimed trial after the charges were read to her before Judge Ahmad Faizat Yahya. Norida Shakira allegedly committed the offence between January the 8th, 2021 and June 20th, 2021 through her company DSS Berkat Enterprise at a bank branch in Kuala Lipis, Pahang. According to the charge sheet, she allegedly bought a sushi restaurant worth 1.317 million ringgit and transferred money totaling over 600,000 ringgit, as well as disposing of 80,000 ringgit believed to be proceeds from unlawful activities. The charges were framed under the Anti-Money Laundering, Anti-Terrorism Financing and Proceeds of Unlawful Activities Act, which provides a maximum prison sentence of 15 years and a fine of not less than 5 times the value of proceeds of unlawful activity or 5 million ringgit, whichever is higher, upon conviction. The court allowed the accused bail of 10,000 ringgit with one surety for all the charges and ordered her to report to the nearest police station once a month. It also allowed the case to be transferred to the Shah Alam Sessions Court. Over in Kedah, 3 company owners were fined 50,000 ringgit by the Alor Star Sessions Court on Wednesday after they pleaded guilty to falsifying bank statements when tendering for a public cleaning contract in 2019. Judge Harmi Thamri Muhammad meted out the sentence to Azlan Abdul Hashim, Nahai Rizaki Muhammad Zin and Wan Helmi Wandarus, aged between 42 and 49, after they pleaded guilty to an alternative charge. The court ordered the trio to serve 6 months in jail if they fail to pay the fine. Judge Harmi Thamri said he took into consideration public interests when imposing the sentence, which was meant to be a deterrent. All of them were charged with using a forged bank statement of accounts for their companies for the months of October to December 2018 when submitting tenders for the public cleaning contract. The offence was committed at Wisma Idaman Sendirian Berhad in Kedah between January 19th and 22nd in 2019. The charge under the Penal Code provides a jail term of up to 2 years or a fine or both upon conviction. Indonesia holds its 77th Independence Day celebrations beside the Presidential Palace in Jakarta. Let's take a look at the patriotic and cultural parades as we wrap up Nightline this time around. With that, I'm Adrian Seet. Thank you for tuning in and take care, Malaysia.